We live in a world that celebrates logic, strategy, and analytical thinking. From school exams to corporate meetings, we're taught to rely on reasoning. This is the domain of the conscious mind, the part of our awareness that thinks, plans, solves, and decides. And yet, for all its brilliance, the conscious mind only scratches the surface of who we are and how we behave. The conscious mind is the part of us that says, I will wake up early tomorrow. It sets goals. It outlines strategies. It imagines a future version of ourselves who is more disciplined, successful, and fulfilled. But the reason so many of those plans don't come to life isn't a lack of effort or intention. It's because the conscious mind alone doesn't run the show. Let's start by understanding what the conscious mind really is. It's the part of your brain that is aware of what is happening in the moment. It's what you're using right now to read these words. It filters information, focuses attention, and makes decisions. It's deliberate, it's precise, and it has limits. Scientists estimate that the conscious mind can only process 40 to 50 bits of information per second. That sounds like a lot until you realize the subconscious can process up to 11 million bits per second. That's the difference between taking a snapshot and downloading a terabyte. But the conscious mind has a critical role. It sets direction. It declares, I want to lose weight, or I want to start a business, or I want to be a better parent. This is the voice of intentionality. It's the spark. But just like lighting a match doesn't mean you've built a fire, setting a conscious goal doesn't mean you'll achieve it. The match has to be protected, nurtured, and sustained by something deeper. This is where many people get discouraged. They create vision boards, set smart goals, download habit trackers, and then fall off track. Not because the tools don't work, but because tools in the hands of a misaligned mind become ineffective. The conscious mind can decide, but if the subconscious doesn't believe, you'll constantly feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill. Imagine trying to steer a ship with only the rudder, while the sails and engine are going the opposite direction. That's what happens when you try to consciously change your life without addressing the deeper programming underneath. The conscious mind is the rudder, it directs, but the subconscious is the engine. Without both working together, there's struggle. Yet the conscious mind is powerful when used with awareness. It's the gatekeeper. It decides what to accept, what to question, what to reinforce. It's where learning begins. It's where curiosity lives. But curiosity alone won't create transformation. That comes when the conscious insights seep into the subconscious through consistent repetition, experience, and emotion. The conscious mind is also where accountability starts. It's the part of us that asks, why am I doing this? And does this align with who I want to be? That reflection is essential. Without it, we drift through life repeating the past. With it, we begin to choose intentionally what we want to change, create, and contribute. We often overestimate what we can do consciously in a short time and underestimate what consistent subconscious alignment can do over the long term. That's why sustainable change rarely comes from a single moment of inspiration. It comes from the accumulation of small conscious decisions reinforced until they become automatic. So how do we strengthen the conscious mind's role in transformation? We begin by using it not just to react, but to reflect. Not just to consume, but to question. Not just to do, but to understand. Every moment you bring your attention to a choice, whether it's to speak kindly, delay gratification, or focus on your goals, you are training your conscious mind to lead. And the more it leads with clarity, the more it teaches the subconscious to follow. But the conscious mind can't do it alone. Its real power emerges when it begins the conversation with the subconscious, when it learns not to force change, but to influence it, when it stops relying on willpower and starts building identity, when it uses vision not as a fantasy, but as a blueprint for rewiring what lies beneath. That's the true role of the conscious mind, not to control everything, but to begin directing change with clarity and conviction. If the conscious mind is the driver gripping the steering wheel, the subconscious is the road it's driving on. It determines how smooth the journey is, what direction feels familiar, and whether you keep moving forward or keep looping in circles. The subconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in patterns, emotions, and repetition. It is quiet, yet it controls nearly everything. Your subconscious governs 95% of your daily behavior. That's not an exaggeration, it's a scientific reality. Everything from how you brush your teeth to how you react under stress is deeply wired in this hidden system. But what's more fascinating is that the subconscious mind isn't just a storage unit for old memories and habits. It's a living, active force that shapes your identity and how you experience the world. Here's where it becomes powerful. The subconscious doesn't judge or analyze. It doesn't ask, is this belief helpful? Or is this behavior aligned with my goals? It simply absorbs. It operates like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant and water consistently, it will grow. Whether that's fear or confidence, limitation or possibility, pain or purpose. It doesn't care. It just follows the program. Think about the language you were exposed to as a child. You didn't study grammar textbooks to learn to speak your native tongue. You absorbed it unconsciously through repetition and emotional association. That's the same way the subconscious absorbs beliefs like, I'm not good enough, success is dangerous, or I always mess things up. You didn't choose these stories consciously. They were embedded by the experiences, voices, and environments you were exposed to. And now they run like background code, dictating how high you'll rise before you start to sabotage your progress. This is why people with incredible talent can still feel stuck. Why people with every opportunity at their fingertips still play small. Because deep inside, their subconscious doesn't believe they're worthy or capable or safe to grow. And here's the twist. Your subconscious isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you, but it's protecting you based on outdated software. Maybe you were ridiculed when you took risks. So now your subconscious tries to keep you small to keep you safe. Maybe you saw a parent fail in business and lose everything. Now, even though you dream of starting your own venture, there's a hidden fear that success leads to pain. That fear is encoded deep below the surface, and unless it's reprogrammed, it will always hold you back. The good news, that programming isn't fixed. It's adaptable. Neuroplasticity tells us the brain can rewire itself. You can literally install new beliefs, new responses, new possibilities. But it doesn't happen through force. It happens through consistency, through experiences repeated with emotion, through language that becomes identity, through vision that's rehearsed until it feels real. One of the most important truths about the subconscious mind is this: it believes whatever you repeat with emotion. That's the key. It doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to certainty, repetition, and feeling. So when you say, I'm confident, but feel insecure, your subconscious takes in the emotion, not the words. That's why affirmations only work when they're paired with belief and action. When you say something often enough and feel it deeply enough, your subconscious starts to accept it as truth, even before there's external evidence. This is why people who visualize their goals every day often end up achieving them. Not because they're lucky, but because they're programming their subconscious to expect success. They're feeding it the future before it arrives. And once the subconscious is on board, it begins to influence behavior, filter information, and guide decisions to match that inner vision. It doesn't resist anymore, it supports. The subconscious also thrives on identity. It doesn't respond to, I want to be fit. It responds to, I am someone who never misses a workout. Because once an idea becomes who you are, the subconscious makes sure your actions match it. That's the power of aligning identity with vision. It's not about forcing yourself to act differently. It's about becoming someone who naturally acts that way. But here's the challenge. If you don't intentionally shape your subconscious, the world will do it for you. Your news feed, your childhood ones, your past failures, they'll write your story if you let them. That's why awareness is the beginning of mastery. You can't change what you're not aware of. But once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can begin replacing it. You can decide what beliefs get to stay and which ones need to go. Reprogramming the subconscious doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix, it's a daily discipline. It means catching your negative self-talk and replacing it with truth. It means visualizing your future self until that version becomes more familiar than your past. It means making decisions today that reflect the identity you want to build, not the one you're trying to escape. The subconscious is powerful not because it's magical, but because it's consistent. It's always working, either for you or against you. And once you understand how it works, you can stop being a prisoner of your past programming and start becoming the architect of your future identity. We've all experienced it. That moment when we set a goal, feel the excitement, make a plan, and then do the exact opposite. You say you'll wake up early, but you hit snooze. You say you'll eat healthy, but you find yourself reaching for junk food by noon. You want to speak up in a meeting, but you stay silent. And afterward, you wonder, why do I keep doing this to myself? This isn't self-sabotage. It's internal conflict. It's not because you're lazy or lack discipline. It's because two parts of your mind are at war and only one of them always wins. Your conscious mind may be determined to change. It writes out goals, builds strategies, studies methods. But your subconscious mind doesn't care about your goals. It cares about your comfort, your safety, your familiar identity. So when you try to stretch beyond that familiar zone, your subconscious raises its hand and says, that's not who we are. That's not what we do. It's as if there's an invisible rope pulling you back every time you try to move forward. And the harder you pull, the tighter it gets. That's why so many people feel frustrated on the path to growth. They're using conscious effort to push through subconscious resistance. And that creates exhaustion. Not just physical exhaustion, but emotional fatigue. Because you're trying to be someone new with a mind that still believes you're the same. Let's get even deeper. Your conscious mind says, I want to be confident. But if your subconscious mind is still carrying beliefs like, I'm not good enough, people don't like me, or I always mess up, those thoughts create tension. That tension becomes anxiety. That anxiety leads to hesitation. And hesitation leads to avoidance. You don't show up the way you planned. And then you beat yourself up for failing. But it's not failure, it's friction. Friction between the version of yourself you consciously want to become and the version your subconscious believes you are. This is the real root of inconsistency. It's not that people lack motivation. It's that their subconscious doesn't feel safe in the new identity. You might consciously want to speak on a stage. But if your subconscious links public speaking with humiliation or rejection, it will do everything it can to protect you from it. Not out of malice, but out of beliefs it has stored. Here's something powerful. Your subconscious will always act in a way that is consistent with your identity. That identity may have been built years ago, during childhood, during trauma, or from repeated experiences. But now it's become your normal. So when your conscious mind says, I want to make 100,000 this year, but your subconscious believes you're only worth 30,000, you'll subconsciously sabotage every opportunity that contradicts that belief. And you won't even realize you're doing it. You'll procrastinate. You'll forget to follow up. You'll make careless mistakes. And then you'll say, I guess I'm just not cut out for this. But in reality, you're just living out the internal narrative you haven't yet rewritten. This is the crossroads where real change begins, not just by setting bigger goals, but by identifying the beliefs that conflict with those goals. Until you change the inner dialogue, the outer effort will always be met with resistance. This is why people stay stuck in cycles. They lose the weight, then gain it back. They get into a relationship, then sabotage it. They start a business, then abandon it. because they're trying to change behavior without changing the identity that drives the behavior. So what's the way forward? First, awareness. You can't change a belief you haven't identified. Start paying attention to the language you use when you talk to yourself. Catch the patterns. Notice when you say, I'm not good at this, or I always fail, or this isn't me. That's your subconscious speaking. And until you challenge that voice, it will remain in control. Second, create a new internal script. Not through forced positivity, but through intentional rewiring. You replace old beliefs by feeding your mind new ones, consistently, emotionally, and with evidence. You say, I am capable, and then you act accordingly, even in small ways. You say, I am disciplined, and you follow through, even when it's inconvenient. And each time you align behavior with identity, you strengthen the new wiring. Third, integrate the two minds. Don't just set conscious goals. Embed them into your subconscious identity. When you do something new, don't just check it off a list. Celebrate it. Feel it, own it, because emotion is the language of the subconscious. The more emotionally connected you are to your growth, the faster the subconscious accepts it as truth. You are not broken. You are not inconsistent. You are not weak. You are simply living in the tension between who you've been and who you are becoming. And when you understand that, you stop fighting yourself and start leading yourself. You stop forcing change and start inviting alignment. You stop pretending and start becoming. When we talk about change, most people focus on the external. Change your schedule. Change your habits. Change your circle. These are all valuable. But if the internal program running in the background hasn't been updated, the change won't stick. You might be able to force new behavior for a few days or weeks, but eventually the old identity pulls you back. Not because you don't want change, but because your subconscious wasn't reprogrammed to support it. The subconscious mind is like the operating system of a computer. It runs the show silently beneath the surface, dictating your preferences, your responses, your instincts, your beliefs. And like any operating system, it doesn't update itself automatically. It requires intentional effort. It requires programming. Here's the problem, Zeke. Most people are running outdated software. Installed in childhood, shaped by fear, reinforced by failure, their minds are filled with viruses, limiting beliefs, old traumas, negative patterns, and yet they expect to achieve new results without ever addressing what's embedded beneath the surface. Let's say someone grew up constantly hearing, you'll never be successful, or money is evil, or don't get your hopes up. Those phrases may seem small, but when they're repeated, especially by people we love or trust, they get hardwired into the subconscious. Years later, that same person might avoid taking risks, feel guilt about earning more, or sabotage opportunities for growth, not because they want to fail, but because their mind has been trained to associate success with danger or disapproval. This is why information alone doesn't change people. You can read every book, listen to every podcast, attend every seminar, but if your subconscious isn't on board, your growth will always hit a ceiling. Until your identity aligns with your goals, you'll keep falling back to old patterns. So how do you reprogram the subconscious? There are three keys: repetition, emotion, and environment. These are the tools that shape beliefs, whether intentionally or unintentionally. 1, repetition is how the subconscious learns. It doesn't respond to once in a while effort. It responds to what's repeated consistently over time. Just like learning to drive or type, the subconscious adopts what it sees over and over. That means the words you speak daily, especially to yourself, become instructions to your subconscious. If you constantly say, I'm so disorganized, your mind will ensure that behavior matches that identity. If you say, I always find a way, your mind will find one. Not because of magic, but because of alignment. But repetition alone isn't enough. 2, emotion is the amplifier. The subconscious doesn't just record words, it records feelings. Think about your most vivid memories. The ones that stuck with you probably had strong emotions attached: joy, fear, pain, pride. That's because emotion tells the subconscious, this matters. Remember this. So if you want to rewire your beliefs, you need to pair repetition with emotional conviction. Don't just say, I'm confident. Say it with power. Feel it, visualize it, act like it's already true. That's how you speak your way into a new state of being. 3, environment is the third ingredient. Your surroundings are either reinforcing your programming or resisting it. If you're trying to believe in abundance, but everyone around you complains about lack, your progress will be slowed. If you're trying to think positively, but your social feed is filled with negativity, sarcasm, and doom scrolling, your subconscious is being polluted. You can't plant seeds of confidence in toxic soil. That's why curating your environment is not a luxury, it's a necessity. The books you read, the voices you listen to, the conversations you engage in, they're all feeding your mind. The only question is, what are they feeding it with? Another powerful tool, affirmations, but not the shallow kind, not the ones you repeat without thinking. Real affirmations are personal, believable, and anchored in purpose. Saying, I am a millionaire means nothing if your subconscious laughs at the absurdity. But saying, every day, I'm becoming more financially wise and capable, lands differently. It feels real. It opens the door. It invites alignment. Start with what you can believe and build from there. Also remember, your brain doesn't understand don't. If you say, don't mess up, your mind hears mess up. That's why fear-based self-talk often backfires. Instead of saying what you want to avoid, speak what you want to create. Don't say, don't be nervous. Say, I am calm and in control. Don't say, don't get rejected. Say, I connect powerfully with others. Direct your subconscious where you want it to go, not what you're trying to escape. The most important shift is this: stop treating transformation as an event and start treating it as a process. You didn't learn your current beliefs in a day. You won't replace them in one either. Reprogramming the subconscious is daily work, gentle, consistent, intentional. It's in the morning routine you commit to. It's in the words you choose during failure. It's in how you respond when old patterns try to reemerge. Every moment is a choice to reinforce the old or install the new. And here's what's possible new. When your subconscious is programmed for growth, you don't need motivation to act. You don't need to push yourself to do the right thing. It becomes automatic, natural, inevitable. You no longer chase success. You operate from it. You don't just try to be confident. You embody it. You don't wait for the world to believe in you. You believe in yourself so deeply that the world catches up. That's the real power of programming the subconscious. Not in becoming someone else, but in finally becoming the version of yourself that's been waiting underneath the surface all along. There's a reason the world's most elite athletes visualize before a competition. There's a reason top performers rehearse their success long before it happens. There's a reason visionaries see the outcome in their minds before the world ever sees it in reality. They understand something most people overlook: the subconscious mind speaks in images. The subconscious doesn't process logic the way the conscious mind does. It doesn't analyze spreadsheets or debate outcomes. It doesn't respond to complicated arguments or long explanations. It responds to what it sees and what it feels. That's why visualization is one of the most powerful tools you can use to influence the deeper part of your mind that controls your habits, behaviors, and beliefs. When you close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself succeeding, seeing every detail, feeling every emotion, you are sending instructions to your subconscious. You're planning a blueprint. And when done repeatedly, this blueprint becomes a pattern that your subconscious begins to follow. It doesn't question whether the image is real. It simply accepts it. Think about this: the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. That's not a motivational quote, it's neuroscience. When you visualize an event with enough clarity and emotional intensity, the same parts of your brain light up as if it were truly happening. You are literally training your mind for success in advance. And this is where most people miss the point. They think visualization is wishful thinking. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. But the subconscious flips that around. You'll see it after you believe it. Belief creates behavior. Behavior creates outcomes. And it starts with what you allow your mind to see. Let's break it down even further. Suppose you want to build self-confidence. If you constantly replay images in your mind of failure, embarrassment, or rejection, your subconscious begins to associate action with pain. It will resist risk. It will hesitate. But if instead you begin to consistently visualize yourself walking into the room with poise, speaking with clarity, standing tall with calmness, your subconscious begins to rewire that association. It starts to believe, this is who I am. And when belief changes, behavior follows. Visualization is not about escaping reality. It's about preparing for it. Just like a pilot uses a simulator before flying a plane, you can use your mind to simulate situations that you want to master. The more you practice success internally, the more natural it feels externally. It's not magic, it's rehearsal. And the more vivid, specific, and emotional the imagery, the more effective the programming. But here's the key: you have to feel it. Visualization without emotion is just daydreaming. Emotion is what tells the subconscious, this matters. When you visualize, don't just see the event, step into it. Feel the warmth of the spotlight, hear the applause, sense the ground beneath your feet, smell the room, touch the texture of your success, engage all 5 senses. Make the imagined experience so real that your body begins to believe it's already happened. That emotional immersion is what unlocks the door, and you don't need hours. Just a few minutes of focused, emotionally charged visualization each day can start to shift the trajectory of your subconscious programming. Athletes do this before races. Speakers do it before stepping on stage. Leaders do it before tough conversations. Because once your mind has been there, your body follows with more ease, less resistance, and greater confidence. But visualization isn't just for achieving goals, it's also powerful for breaking through fear. When you rehearse yourself succeeding at something you normally fear, you begin to reduce the subconscious association of fear with that activity. You start to create a new normal, a new default setting. That's how fear is replaced, not just with information, but with new mental experiences. You can also use visualization to prime your subconscious every morning. Before the chaos of the day begins, take a few minutes to picture yourself moving through your day with purpose. Picture yourself being focused, decisive, disciplined. See yourself responding calmly to challenges, making courageous decisions, staying aligned with your higher self. That simple mental rehearsal sets the tone, not just mentally, but neurologically, for how your day unfolds. Because once the subconscious sees a clear image of who you are and what you do, it begins to close the gap between your current reality and that vision. You start to move, speak, and act in ways that reflect the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. That's the hidden power of visualization. But remember, visualization must be backed with action. The images you create must be paired with the steps you take. Vision alone won't change your life. But vision combined with belief, emotion, and repeated behavior, that's the recipe for transformation. That's when the subconscious stops resisting and starts supporting. You become a magnet for the future you see. Not because it magically appears, but because you align your mind, your energy, and your behavior in that direction. The clearer the image, the stronger the pull. The deeper the belief, the faster the shift. And it all begins in the unseen. If you want to change your life, don't start by changing everything. Start by changing one habit. Because your habits aren't just things you do. They're reflections of who you are. They're the invisible architecture of your identity, and they are written directly into your subconscious mind. You can tell me your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, but if I can observe your daily habits, I can tell you your future. Habits are powerful because they bypass the need for conscious effort. They automate your behavior. Once something becomes a habit, your brain no longer needs to weigh options, debate decisions, or rely on motivation. The behavior becomes reflexive, automatic, subconscious. Now, that can either work for you or against you, because here's the truth: your subconscious doesn't care if a habit is productive or destructive. It doesn't label a habit as good or bad. It only knows one thing: repetition. Whatever you do consistently, your brain begins to prioritize. Neurons that fire together wire together. That's neuroscience, not philosophy. So if you repeatedly procrastinate, that becomes the path of least resistance. If you repeatedly wake up early and train, that becomes your new normal. Either way, your subconscious is recording and obeying. This is why willpower is such a weak foundation for transformation. Willpower works when you're inspired, when you're fresh, when life is going well. But the moment you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, your brain defaults to the habits encoded in your subconscious. That's why people fall back into old routines, not because they're weak, but because their default setting hasn't been changed. Habits shape your identity, and identity sustains your habits. It's a loop. Let's break that down. If you see yourself as a disciplined person, your mind will work to align your behavior with that identity. You'll go to the gym not because it's on your to-do list, but because it's who you are. You'll eat clean, speak intentionally, show up on time. Not because you have to, but because anything else feels inconsistent with your self-image. On the flip side, if you see yourself as someone who always messes things up, your subconscious will find ways to prove that true. You'll miss deadlines, avoid risks, and unconsciously sabotage progress just to maintain internal consistency. Because nothing is more uncomfortable to the human mind than behaving in a way that contradicts the identity it has accepted. This is why lasting change isn't about behavior modification. It's about identity transformation. When you shift who you believe you are, your habits begin to follow. And every time you show up in that identity, the belief grows stronger. That's how habits become self-reinforcing. But here's the key: you don't wait until you believe it to act like it. You begin acting like it, and the belief catches up. You don't wait to feel confident before speaking. You speak, and then confidence builds. You don't wait to feel like a leader before taking responsibility. You lead, and then the identity begins to form. It starts with small daily decisions. Habits don't require intensity, they require consistency. A 10-minute workout every day will transform your body more than a 2-hour workout once a month. Journaling for 5 minutes a night can rewire your emotional awareness more than attending a weekend seminar. The subconscious is not impressed by how big your actions are. It's shaped by how regular they are. So ask yourself, what are you rehearsing every day? What patterns are you practicing? Because every repeated behavior is either reinforcing a version of yourself you want or one you're trying to outgrow. This is also where many people give up. They try to change everything at once, but the brain doesn't work well that way. Massive, sudden overhauls may feel exciting, but they're rarely sustainable. Instead, focus on one keystone habit, one behavior that, when mastered, naturally pulls other habits along with it. For some, it's waking up early. For others, it's reading daily, moving your body, or managing your finances. Find the habit that elevates your identity and master it. Over time, as that habit becomes automatic, you free up mental bandwidth. You gain momentum, and most importantly, your subconscious begins to accept the new version of you. It starts building a new operating system, and once the system is upgraded, you don't have to push anymore, you're pulled. But don't stop there. Protect your habits. Habits are easy to form, but also easy to lose. The brain loves shortcuts. If you don't consciously maintain your rituals, the subconscious will drift back to what's familiar. That's why intentional reinforcement is key. Create routines, track your wins, celebrate your consistency, and surround yourself with environments that support the identity you're building. You're not just creating habits, you're designing your future self. Every repetition is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And when enough votes are cast, the election is won. You don't just want to be confident, disciplined, successful. You become someone who naturally lives that way. That's the power of habits. They're not just actions. They're statements, declarations, reinforcements of identity. And when they're aligned with your vision, they become the foundation that transforms effort into embodiment. Your subconscious mind is always open, always listening, always absorbing. It does not have a filter unless you give it one. That filter is your conscious awareness, your ability to say, this thought, this voice, this influence does not belong here. But most people never learn to use that filter. They leave the gate wide open, and then they wonder why their minds are filled with fear, doubt, limitation, and negativity. If your subconscious is the soil, your conscious mind is the gatekeeper. You are the gardener, and every thought, image, word, and experience is a seed. The question is, what are you allowing in? What kind of seeds are you letting through the gate and planting, intentionally or not? We protect our homes with locks. We protect our money with passwords. But we leave the most powerful asset we have, our mind, wide open to anyone and anything that wants to drop something in. Every song you listen to, every news story you scroll past, every comment you read, every joke you laugh at, it all bypasses your logical thinking and gets quietly embedded into your subconscious. And once it's in, it starts forming patterns. It starts shaping expectations. It starts influencing how you view yourself, others, and the world. You don't even realize it's happening. That's the danger of passive consumption. The longer you stay unconscious of what you're feeding your mind, the more control you give to the external world. Not because you're weak, but because you're unguarded. Think about social media. It's not just a distraction. It's a delivery system for belief systems. If you spend your time watching people argue, fail, complain, or flex, your subconscious begins to believe that's the world. that everyone is struggling, that success is fake, that life is hostile. Your lens becomes tainted. And your internal world begins to match what you're exposed to, even if you don't agree with it logically. That's why awareness is power. The moment you become conscious of your inputs, you begin to take your power back. You stop being a passive receiver, and you become an intentional creator. This is not about avoiding discomfort or living in a bubble. It's about knowing what's yours and what's not. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Not every story deserves to be rehearsed. Not every voice deserves to echo inside of you. So how do you protect the gate? Start by paying attention to what you consume first each day. Your brain is most impressionable in the morning and before sleep. That's when the subconscious is most open. So if you wake up and immediately check the news, scroll through fear, or start comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel, your subconscious receives that as the tone of the day. It's like pouring poison into the soil before trying to grow a garden. Instead, choose what enters your mind during those sacred moments. Read something uplifting. Reflect on your goals. Speak life into yourself. Visualize your day going well. Even a few minutes of intentional input can set a foundation for the hours that follow. Next, curate your environment. What books are on your shelf? What conversations dominate your time? Who do you spend the most time with, and what do they talk about? These aren't small things. These are the forces shaping your subconscious. If the people around you constantly speak from fear, sarcasm, or limitation, that energy will seep into your thinking, not because you're weak, but because you're human. We all adapt to our environments. That's why it's not enough to want change. You have to design a space, physically, mentally, socially, that reinforces the identity you're building. And when negative inputs inevitably come in, don't just absorb them. Challenge them. Learn to ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this moving me toward who I want to be? That moment of questioning is the conscious mind doing its job. That's the filter. That's the gatekeeper waking up. Also understand this, you are one of the inputs. Your self-talk is perhaps the most consistent voice your subconscious hears. If you constantly criticize yourself, make jokes at your own expense, or speak defeat into your own life, you're reinforcing the very identity you're trying to escape. Your words become your instructions. Speak with intention. Speak with alignment. Speak with truth. Because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between sarcasm and sincerity. If you say, I'm such an idiot, enough times your subconscious accepts it. If you say, I figure things out, even in the midst of struggle, your subconscious rises to meet that belief. Your internal language matters more than any external noise. Ultimately, protecting the gate isn't about fear, it's about responsibility. It's about recognizing that your mind is not a dumping ground, it's sacred territory, and the quality of what you allow in will determine the quality of what comes out. Your thoughts, your decisions, your habits, your emotions, your relationships. You have the power to choose your mental diet. You have the power to feed your mind with truth, vision, strength, and possibility. Not just once, but daily. You don't have to believe everything you hear. You don't have to accept every story that shows up. You're the gatekeeper. You decide what gets in. And once you protect your mind, you protect your future. You have two minds, but only one life. And the quality of that life depends not on which mind is stronger, but on whether they're aligned. One mind, your conscious, decides what you want. The other, your subconscious, decides what you'll allow. And if those two minds are not working together, you'll feel like you're constantly battling yourself, wanting success but fearing it, craving growth but clinging to comfort, making promises but breaking them silently. That tension, that inner conflict, is not a flaw. It's a signal. It means the conscious and subconscious minds are out of sync. And until they're brought into harmony, you'll never feel fully present, fulfilled, or free. Integration is the process of bringing those minds into agreement. It's about creating coherence between what you say you want and what you truly believe you deserve. When the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are aligned, there is no more resistance. There's clarity, there's momentum, there's power. But integration doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate daily decision to bridge the gap between thought and identity, between vision and programming, between what you know and what you live. Let's unpack how this happens. First, it starts with honesty. Real integration requires you to stop pretending. Stop pretending you're fine when you're not. Stop saying you want one thing when you're actually afraid of it. You cannot align what you're unwilling to acknowledge. If your subconscious believes success is dangerous, you must be willing to admit it before you can rewire it. If your subconscious believes you're unworthy of love, no affirmation will stick until you confront the wound underneath it. This is the real inner work. Getting radically honest about your inner world, identifying the contradictions, becoming aware of the gap between your intentions and your instincts. That awareness doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful, because now you can work with your mind, not against it. Second, integration requires repetition. Your subconscious doesn't change because of one decision. It changes because of consistent reinforcement. So if your conscious mind says, I am disciplined, your actions must reflect that again and again until your subconscious believes it too. That's how trust is built. That's how new beliefs are adopted, through behavior that matches intention. Think of it like a conversation. Your conscious mind speaks to the subconscious through repeated action. The subconscious replies by making those actions feel natural. It's a loop. The more consistent the communication, the more seamless the integration. Third emotion is the glue. Your subconscious is emotionally driven. It doesn't respond to logic, it responds to meaning. If you're trying to create new beliefs, attach them to strong emotional experiences, celebrate small wins, visualize vividly, speak with passion, feel the future you're building. When your subconscious feels it, it accepts it. Integration also demands that you stop outsourcing your identity. You cannot become who you're meant to be if you're constantly trying to fit someone else's mold. The subconscious craves authenticity. If you're acting one way publicly but believe something else privately, that dissonance creates stress, fatigue, and burnout. Living out of alignment is not sustainable. Integration is about integrity, being whole, being true, being one. Another key element, alignment of your environments. You can't reprogram your subconscious if you're surrounded by people and systems that constantly reinforce the old story. Your friends' habits, digital spaces, all of them send signals to your mind about what's normal. If you want to normalize excellence, surround yourself with excellence. If you want to normalize growth, surround yourself with growth. Your subconscious is listening to everything, not just your words. Finally, integration is not a destination. It's a lifestyle. You never reach a point where both minds are permanently in sync. Life evolves. So must you. Your purpose deepens. Your vision expands. Your identity transforms. And with each new level, you must once again bring your conscious and subconscious into alignment. This is the secret of most people's. The goal isn't just to know more. It's to live what you know. The most successful people in the world are not those who have all the information. They're the ones who have turned information into identity, who have aligned their inner world so powerfully that their outer world had no choice but to shift. When your conscious and subconscious minds are aligned, you stop needing motivation. You act from your truth. You no longer feel split. You no longer feel like two people, the one you want to be and the one you've been. You become one, whole, integrated. And from that place, life flows. Decisions become easier. Discipline becomes natural. Confidence becomes authentic. You begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that match your internal alignment. That's not coincidence, it's congruence. So align your thoughts with your beliefs. Align your habits with your identity. Align your vision with your actions. When your two minds walk in the same direction, nothing can pull you back. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are simply unaligned. And the moment you choose to bring your two minds, your conscious intentions and your subconscious identity into harmony, the game changes. Not just for your goals, not just for your habits, but for your entire life. You've spent years trying to force change through willpower, trying to hustle your way to worthiness, trying to fix what you thought was wrong with you. But the truth is, your transformation doesn't begin with doing more. It begins with becoming more aware of who you truly are and who you've always had the power to become. Your conscious mind sets the direction. Your subconscious mind drives the behavior. When they are divided, life feels like resistance. But when they are united, life flows like momentum. That's when your actions feel aligned. That's when confidence stops being a performance and becomes your default. That's when discipline is no longer a fight, it's a rhythm. That's when purpose doesn't feel like a mystery, it feels like home. You are not the voice of your past. You are not the echo of old wounds. You are the architect of your internal world. And when you take full responsibility for your mental inputs, when you start programming your subconscious with intention, when you begin visualizing your future and acting as if it already belongs to you, you don't just change what you do, you change who you are. And from that place, no dream is out of reach. No obstacle is insurmountable. No fear is final. Because the most powerful force in your life is not what happens to you. It's what happens in you. And you have the power to shape it right now. Today, starting with one thought, followed by one belief, reinforced by one habit, until your reality becomes the proof of your alignment. You don't have to wait. The mind that created your limits can also create your freedom.